about him before, the $8 million kid from Tennessee. We got a little more details on the contract, and we kind of wanted to break it down a little bit more and just unravel this catastrophe.
Let's just unpack what came to be the NIL deal for Nico. I'm never going to be able to pronounce this kid's last name.
We'll leave it at that.
Iamaleava. All right. We all know who it is. It's Nico. It's the $8 million man going to Tennessee who hasn't had a winning season in a hot minute, or at least a competitive season. But that being said, so look, Nico gets an $8 million NIL contract. Okay. Let's dig in just a little bit there. $350,000 day one just for enrolling and stepping foot on campus for classes. Day one, $350K. And then, of course, if you can do the math, right, you've got your $2 million a year consecutively after that. They hope he sticks around, so on and so forth, right? But it's if you think about what's happening with this contract, right? $350,000 to be there day one. And then they're incentivizing a kid who's never thrown a football with a college jersey on to stay for 4 years. This is going to make it to where kids don't want to just jump for the NFL almost immediately, right? Because we've seen this over and over and over again. Like the NIL is a new problem to have because you can transfer, you can do anything you want. But before it was, kids are leaving, in their junior year. If they redshirted in their freshman or sophomore year, they don't even have to make it through their junior year. You could legitimately have a 2-year player, 2 years worth of statistics and production, and they're gone. Right now with this, they're almost paying kids to stay with the school instead of just making that initial jump to the NFL as fast as they possibly can. It is an intriguing concept, but something that we had not seen at all leading up to this.
And so he gets paid $2 million each year to stay.
Yep.
So we were talking about this precast, right? Because what's interesting is it can't be performance based. So it can't be, well, if you don't play well, you don't get paid, or if you do play well, you get paid more, right? And so there's an incentive to not go into the draft and to not transfer, right, with the $2 million. But what happens? So I want to see more of like who's bound, like who's getting screwed here. Because if the college is just paying him because he's going to do well, right? Like they basically got in on it's like a rookie contract. They're paying him on what he can do. So if he comes in and he's a man and he blows up Tennessee and he's really worth $6 million, well, they got to steal, right? But if he comes in and he's trash, do they not have to pay him now? Do they just say, I don't care if you stay? Like, is that, or is it like a guaranteed? It's weird because it's not supposed to be like this, but they're finding loopholes a way around it. And that's where I want to know more of, like, how does this going to work out? How is this going to play? Because if they can do those things where, like, hey, we'll pay you to stay, or like you sign this contract to where you're guaranteed to get, so next year, hey, you're going to sign a $2 million NIL contract, right? With you put image and likeness in there, figure out how we can make it to where it's non-statistically motivated. And you cannot transfer. So we won't drop you, but you cannot transfer. That's going to be interesting. 1. 2, I think this is going to create more influencers. Okay? And what I mean by that is I think kids going pro is going to the life of going pro is going to die essentially. Now, not obviously the full thing. I get that. But it's not the motivation's not going to be there. I mean, think about it. The kids are already driving Bentleys. A kid from CJ Stroud just signed a Bentley contract. He's going to be driving a Bentley to school.
Texas? Yeah.
No. Ohio State. CJ Stroud.
Oh.
Anthony Richardson, he obviously landed a big one. I want to say like a kid out in, was it USC that signed a Lamborghini contract? I mean, these guys are already living the life, right? So it's literally an image and likeness. So these kids need to start taking that money and investing it into somebody to follow around with the camera and to do a day in the life of what it's like to be an $8 million paid athlete, right? So now they're going to be creating content, which is going to be generating revenue. That's going to allow them to get more sponsorships. And you do that for the 4 years you're in college, you'll cash in, you'll create a name like Destroying. I don't know if you know that is, or Destorming. He's trying to play in the NFL to be a kicker, but he's not making it. He seems athletic, but he's made his career off just like basically like, I'm going to try to be in the NFL. And now he hangs out with all these NFL guys and just makes content all day long. Now I get like it's fun to play in the NFL, but you don't have to go and get the crap beat out of you. And you create a brand and an image that will last forever. And then now you take that and you repurpose it. And now you own a business, you own a brand all by the time you're 24, and you didn't have to go and get your, risk getting your back broken or any of that. Because again, the lifestyle for especially running backs. I mean, I made a few shorts like with the Todd Gurley's, the Eddie Lacy's. If Leonard Fournette's coming into camp looking a little juicy, a little thick lately, right? I mean, these guys, they don't last long. If you really think about it, I mean, they're like a 5 to 6 year guy. There's a few guys that are coming out of Alabama. Their reps are even shorter than other schools because think about it. Bama's always going to the playoffs. Bama's always playing in a championship. So their season's that much longer than the rest of the league, right? They're playing that much better teams year in and year out. So those guys are getting bigger reps, more reps, harder reps, right, than somebody from Cal or North Dakota State, right, who come in and are fresh, got fresh legs because they get their ass kicked out or just roasted in college. So all this is going to play a factor. Again, I don't know if it's good or bad or what way it can go, but I think it's going to evolve to where we're going to create softer players, one, and two, more influencers.
Let me throw this one at you. And we didn't talk about this in precast, so this is just coming up.
That was me catching it.
So let's say this. Okay, so the ownership went through the collective bargaining agreement in the NFL, and that's when they were able to take away these massive rookie contracts, and you only got paid with these maximums based on your position and your draft pick, right? It was the anti-Sam Bradford.
I was like, right? After Bradford?
Exactly.
Seen a show about that guy.
But that we did. It was well written. But that being said, so let's think this through. So if the collective bargaining agreement allows that even a first round draft pick can only get paid so much, and even their signing bonus can only be so much, and you have somebody like Nico who's going to make $2 million a year guaranteed, does he even risk going to the draft? Especially considering there's a ceiling. There's a ceiling right there based on where you get picked. And if you drop like an old school, I don't know, an Aaron Rodgers who sat there awkwardly pick after pick after pick.
You're losing millions.
Yeah. I mean, and then you can't go back. You can't go back to college if you put your hat into the ring for the NFL. So this is something that could legitimately lock these kids into not wanting to even tempt fate or to test the waters with the NFL, because if they slip, they can make less money. They can make less money being drafted into the NFL than if they just stayed on their NIL deal and played another year in college.
Yeah, I think that's the one that's the one positive thing that I like, that I think people are more willing to stay. Something that somebody just did, Drew Timme from Gonzaga, the guy with the stash, the handlebars, he withdrew from the NBA draft. And so I looked it up to see if there's any juice behind that. I looked up a mock draft. He wasn't projected to go in the first round from what I could see. And so that tells me he's like, I'm not going to go and get enough money or even get drafted. He's a little small, so that's probably why. And maybe he looked and saw that the next year's draft doesn't look as appealing. He's like, look, I'm going to go get paid because, look, he does well for Gonzaga. I mean, those guys they're competing every year. He'll go and he'll be a top name in Gonzaga, get a couple bills. So he's a prime example of somebody staying to make it happen. So it's crazy times. I would love to see more details on these contracts. I mean, that was a great breakdown to see, like, hey, he's getting the $35,000 for the year and then $2 million to stay, and then it's kind of year in and year out he has to earn that money. So that part's interesting to already see. And again, where's the incentive? How is it going to work to stay? And we'll keep an eye on and kind of update you guys as we know. But before you go, make sure you guys check out this video right here. It's brand spanking new. It's shiny. It's beautiful. It's gonna be a great one. I promise you. Make sure you like that video too. And also too, don't forget to subscribe somewhere in this vicinity right here.